Hey everybody, and welcome back to Be Like Christ. I want to talk to you about Matthew chapter 10 for about 5 minutes. If you want the handout that you're about to see on the screen, you can download it on our website. There's a link in the description. So when did the events of Matthew chapter 10 take place? Well, this is during Jesus' earthly ministry, so probably somewhere between 26 and 31 AD. In terms of the main characters in this chapter, we've got one in a group of people. So the first one is Jesus. He's the main character really of the entire book of Matthew. He's the Messiah, or the Savior of the world. And then we got the 12 apostles, and I'll just read you the list that the Bible gives us of their names. Simon, who was called Peter, and Andrew his brother, James the son of Zebedee, and John his brother, Philip and Bartholomew, Thomas and Matthew the tax collector, James the son of Alphaeus, and Thaddeus, Simon the zealot, and Judas Iscariot, who betrayed Jesus. Where did the events of chapter 10 take place? Well, we don't know exactly because the Bible doesn't tell us, but it seems pretty likely that this happened somewhere in and around the area of the city of Capernaum, because that's where Jesus spent a lot of his time. Okay, and now for our outline of the chapter. The first four verses are a list of the 12 apostles. These were Jesus's kind of special followers that were really close to him. I'm not going to reread that list because we just read it under our characters section. In the second section of our outline, verses 5 through 15, Jesus sent his 12 apostles out to preach and to work miracles. He gave them power to work miracles. We read about that in verse 1. And he told them to proclaim that the kingdom of heaven was at hand, or that it was near. They were only supposed to preach to Jewish people, and they were to rely on God's hospitality for the provisions that they would need along their journey. In verses 16 through 33, Jesus warns and promises his apostles that they are going to face persecutions for what they're about to do. He wants to prepare them. Jesus told them that they needed to be wise as serpents and as harmless as doves. There would be days in their future when they would be arrested and thrown in prison and beaten for preaching the message of the kingdom of heaven. But they weren't to worry and stress out about those future events because God's Spirit was going to be with them to empower them, to give them the right words to say, to help them through those situations. They were to expect persecution because even their master, even the perfect Savior, Jesus, he would be persecuted for the things that he said because the gospel was divisive. But Jesus told the apostles not to worry about those who could only harm their physical bodies because God protected their souls. God cares for the tiniest little birds, the sparrows, the flowers of the field. He knows how many hairs are on our heads, and he knew that about the apostles as well, and certainly he wasn't going to abandon them in their persecutions. And then Jesus said this statement, "So everyone who acknowledges me before men, I will acknowledge before my Father who is in heaven. But whoever denies me before men, I also will deny before my Father who is in heaven." And then in verses 34 through 39, Jesus tells his apostles that there were going to need to be sacrifices that were made if they really wanted to be one of his followers. Jesus' message was a sword of division between people. And that would mean that some of the apostles' relatives, people that they loved, would reject them for preaching this message and for following Jesus. Jesus wanted to prepare them for that, and he said, "Whoever loves father or mother more than me is not worthy of me, and whoever does not take up his cross and follow me is not worthy of me." And then in the final section of this chapter, verses 40 through 42, Jesus blesses those and encourages those who would help God's servants on their journey as they preach the gospel. He said that assisting one of God's servants in their mission is like assisting Jesus himself. And even small forms of help, like giving somebody a glass of cold water when they're thirsty, those are recognized and appreciated by God. So how does this chapter fit into kind of the big overall story of the Bible, and is there any application for us? So in the big picture, I think one thing we can take away from this chapter is that the Christian life has never been described as carefree, luxurious, easy, comfortable, or without difficulty. Followers of Jesus are described as servants both to God and servants to other people. And it's not always easy or comfortable to be a servant. And throughout the entire Bible, we see God calling people to do difficult things in his service. But although those things are difficult, God has promised that he will always be with us. And if you read the Old Testament scriptures, you'll see that God was always with the people that he called to do that difficult work. And then for our application, let me read you a verse 42 from this chapter. "And whoever gives one of these little ones even a cup of cold water because he is a disciple, truly I say to you, he will by no means lose his reward." You don't have to do something great or something extravagant to please God. You can do meaningful work in God's kingdom with something as small as a glass of water. So don't let your inability to think of something magnificent that you could do keep you from working today. What's one small thing that you could do to encourage a servant of God or to help somebody out today that you could go do today? Think about what that might be and then go do it.